October 1945. Manila, Philippines. The war was over. Japan had surrendered. MacArthur's forces were processing thousands of Japanese prisoners of war. Lieutenant Colonel James Warren was overseeing the interrogations. Routine. Name, rank, unit. Standard procedure. Then a Filipino civilian walked into his office. Old man. Maybe 60. Thin. Shaking. He was holding a notebook. Handwritten pages. Names, dates, locations. Warren looked at the first page. His stomach turned. "Where did you get this?" Warren asked. The old man's voice was quiet. "I hid in the jungle. I watched. I wrote down everything." Warren read the next page, then the next. Each page described an atrocity. Villages burned, civilians executed, women and children killed, and at the bottom of each page, a name. The same name. A Japanese commander. Lieutenant General Yamashita Tomoyuki's subordinate. A man named Colonel Ishii. Warren looked up. How many incidents? The old man's hands trembled. More than 50, but one was the worst. He turned to a specific page. Warren read it. February 1945. A village called Calamba. Japanese forces retreating. Villagers suspected of helping American forces. The Japanese commander ordered everyone into the church. Men, women, children, over 200 people. Then he locked the doors and set it on fire. Everyone inside burned alive. Warren stared at the page, at the name written at the bottom, Colonel Ishii. Within hours, the report reached MacArthur's headquarters. MacArthur read it. Then he read the old man's entire notebook. 50 documented war crimes, thousands of victims, all committed by one commander. MacArthur made a decision that would define how he handled justice in the Pacific. He ordered Colonel Ishii found, arrested, and put on trial. Not a military tribunal. A public trial. Filipino civilians would testify. The evidence would be presented. The world would see.
This is the story of what MacArthur said when he put a war criminal on trial, and how justice in the Pacific was different from justice in Europe.
Before we continue, make sure you subscribe. We tell the stories of World War II that show the hardest decisions about justice, mercy, and what victors owe to the defeated. To understand MacArthur's decision, you need to understand what was happening across the Pacific in late 1945. The war had ended in August. Japan surrendered. But the aftermath was complicated. In Europe, the Nuremberg trials were being organized. Nazi leaders would face justice. The world was watching. In the Pacific, MacArthur faced a different challenge. Japan had committed atrocities across Asia. The Philippines had suffered terribly under Japanese occupation. From 1942 to 1945, Japanese forces controlled the islands. Massacres, torture, starvation. Filipino civilians wanted justice. They wanted accountability. But MacArthur also needed stability. He was rebuilding Japan. He needed cooperation from the Japanese government. Pushing too hard on war crimes could destabilize everything, so he had to choose his cases carefully. Colonel Ishii became one of those cases. American forces found Ishii in October 1945. He was hiding in a small town north of Manila. He didn't resist arrest. When questioned, he admitted to being a Japanese officer, but he denied the war crimes. "I followed orders," he said. "We were at war. These things happen in war." MacArthur's legal team reviewed the evidence. The Filipino man's notebook, witness statements, survivors from Calamba who had escaped before the church burned. The case was solid. MacArthur gave the order. Public trial. January 9th. The trial was held in Manila, a courtroom packed with Filipino civilians, American military prosecutors, and Ishii sitting calmly, showing no emotion. The prosecution called witnesses. First, the old man with the notebook. He testified about what he'd seen, how he'd documented everything, how he'd risked his life to preserve the evidence. Then survivors from Calamba. One woman, Maria Santos, testified. She'd been in the church that day. Her husband and 2 children were inside when the doors were locked. She'd escaped through a window, a small window in the back. She was thin enough to fit through. Her family wasn't. She heard them screaming as the fire spread. The courtroom was silent as she spoke. Some people were crying. Ishii sat there, emotionless. The defense argued that Ishii was following orders, that in war commanders make difficult decisions, that the villagers had been helping American forces, making them combatants, not civilians. The prosecution countered. Locking people in a church and burning them alive is not a military tactic. It's murder. The trial lasted 2 weeks. MacArthur did not attend. He received daily reports. He read the transcripts. His staff asked him what he wanted the verdict to be. MacArthur's response was clear. I don't decide verdicts. The evidence decides. The tribunal decides. Justice decides. But privately, MacArthur had strong feelings. He wrote in his diary, "We did not fight this war to become them. We fought to prove that even in war, there are lines that cannot be crossed." Ishii crossed every line. The tribunal reached a verdict. Guilty on all charges. The sentence, death by hanging. Ishii's defense team appealed. They argued the trial was unfair, that MacArthur had pressured the tribunal, that this was Victor's justice, not real justice. MacArthur reviewed the appeal personally. He denied it. But then he did something unexpected. He commuted the sentence. Not to freedom, to life imprisonment. His reasoning, justice has been served. The world knows what Ishii did. The victims have been heard. But I will not execute a man to satisfy revenge. Execution makes martyrs. Prison makes examples. The decision shocked everyone. Filipino civilians were furious. They wanted Ishii dead. He'd killed their families, burned their village. MacArthur's own staff questioned the decision. But MacArthur stood firm. He held a press conference. Rare for him to address the media directly on a single case. A reporter asked, "General, you've shown mercy to a man who showed none. Why?" MacArthur's response became famous. "Because mercy is not weakness. Mercy is what separates us from our enemies. Ishii burned people alive because he saw them as less than human. If I execute him out of revenge, I'm doing the same thing. I'm saying his life is worthless." He paused. Ishii will spend the rest of his life in prison. Every day he'll wake up knowing what he did. Every day he'll live with that. That's justice, not revenge. Justice. The room was silent. Another reporter. "What about the victims? Don't they deserve closure?" MacArthur looked directly at the camera. The victims deserve to be remembered. Their families deserve to know that the world heard their story, that the man responsible was held accountable. That's what this trial accomplished. Executing Ishii wouldn't bring anyone back. It wouldn't undo what happened. But showing the world that even war criminals get a fair trial, that even in victory we uphold our values, that matters. That's what we fought for. Ishii served 12 years in prison. He died in 1950. Heart attack. He never expressed remorse. Maria Santos, the woman who testified, lived until 19. Before she died, a historian asked her about the trial. "Did you want Ishii executed?" She thought for a long moment. "Yes. At the time I wanted him dead. I wanted him to suffer the way my family suffered. And now I understand what MacArthur did. He gave us something more important than revenge. He gave us a record, a trial, evidence. The world knows what happened to Kalamba. The world knows my family's names." She paused. Ishii died in prison, forgotten. My family is remembered. That's justice. MacArthur's approach to war crimes trials in the Pacific was different from Nuremberg. Less harsh. More focused on accountability than punishment. Critics said he was too soft. That war criminals deserve death, not mercy. Supporters said he balanced justice with reconciliation. That he rebuilt Japan while still holding individuals accountable. History judges him somewhere in the middle. But what's certain is that MacArthur believed justice wasn't just about punishing the guilty. It was about proving that even victors are bound by law. That even in the aftermath of the most brutal war in history, there are principles worth upholding. Ishii committed terrible crimes. He was held accountable. He spent the rest of his life in prison. But he wasn't executed. And that decision, controversial as it was, sent a message: we won the war without becoming what we fought against. If you were MacArthur, would you have executed Ishii, or would you have shown mercy? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories about World War II and the impossible decisions that shaped the post-war world, make sure to subscribe.